Have you ever had a moment where you wished you could take it all back? A word you said in anger, a moment you stayed silent when you should have spoken, a decision that still lingers in your heart? We probably all had those moments, moments that sort of hang over us, that define us, that we carry into the quiet hours of the night. If you want to think about Bible heroes that fit this sort of bill, I think that there's one name that deserves some major consideration. Not to shame that person, but to affirm God's grace and that adage about God's MO. You know, it says that God doesn't call the equipped, but equips the called. You know who fits that bill? Peter. Peter was one of Jesus's closest friends. If you think about it, he's known for both his boldness and his brokenness. He made really big promises, took bold steps, but had some deep failures on what we would now call epic fails. And yet, he's the one Jesus chose to build his church. This Easter, I want to look at the resurrection through Peter's eyes, not from a place of perfection, but from the perspective of someone who has stumbled hard and yet has been restored by Jesus. Peter's story isn't one of a one-off moment. It seems to be sort of his thing. Think about how his time with Jesus, during all that time, he seems like there's something that he wants. We've probably all been there. He has a vision of how it all plays out perfectly, idealizes that, and lives into that just a little too much. Let's take a look at Peter's record. Jesus tells his disciples that he must suffer and die. Peter gets really excited about that, pulls Jesus over and kind of lets him have it and says, "Never, Lord, this shall never happen to you." Jesus replies, "Hey, get behind me, Satan." You see, Peter's heart was protective, but his mind was set on human plans, not on God's. Peter wants to prove something, so he steps out of the boat in faith. He walks on water, but when he sees the wind and the waves, fear wins. He starts sinking. Peter started strong, but fear crept in. Jesus is transfigured in glory. Big moment. And Peter, overwhelmed, blurts out, "Let's build 3 shelters." It wasn't a moment for building. It was a moment for all. But Peter filled the silence with some noise. Jesus asked Peter and others to stay awake and pray 3 times. They fall asleep. In Jesus' darkest hour, Peter just couldn't help out. When the soldiers came to arrest Jesus, Peter pulls out a sword and strikes. Jesus said, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" Peter was trying, but misunderstood Jesus' mission. The rooster crows. Peter has denied Jesus 3 times. Jesus looks at him and he realizes what he's done. He weeps bitterly. This was his lowest moment. And then at the empty tomb, his appearance is pretty anticlimactic. He gets there to discover the stone's been rolled away and Jesus is missing, so he goes home. Then, after the resurrection, Peter doesn't know what to do, so he returns to what he does know, fishing. It suggests a lot of confusion, maybe even discouragement. Now, we can end up looking down our noses at Peter. We can critique his actions or inaction. We can think of him as pompous or a blowhard, but is he really? Or is he just another person who's trying hard and hasn't had the benefit of hindsight, 4 Gospels, tomes of theology, and 2,000 years of second guessing? I can relate to Peter. I've had plenty of Peter moments that I wish I hadn't had, and I'm sure he did too. But Peter was hoping for something. He saw the signs, but he was still unsure. If he was anything like me, he was still carrying a lot of regret, still wondering if it's too late. We might look at Peter's history and comprise a YouTube reel called Peter's Epic Fails, but Jesus doesn't do Peter like that. In the end, a short time later, he meets him on the beach. Not with judgment, not with I told you so's, not with any mean looks, but with kindness, with breakfast. He asked Peter 3 different times, do you love me? 3 questions, 1 for every denial. And then, feed my sheep. Those times he was really reining Peter in, when he was speaking when he should have been listening, doubting when he should have been trusting, acting when he should have been waiting, sleeping when he should have been praying, denying what he should have been standing with, and retreating when he should have been remembering. But Jesus doesn't just forgive Peter. He restores him. He commissions him. He believes in him, and he trusts him. This is Easter. Not just the victory of the resurrection, but the personal victory of grace. Peter failed publicly and personally, but that wasn't the end of the story. Jesus' resurrection means our worst moments, our epic fails, are not final. Peter went from the man who denied Jesus to the man who preached the gospel with boldness, from bitter tears to bold testimony. So maybe you're here today and you feel like Peter. You tried, but your fear won. You wanted to stand, but you stumbled. You returned to old habits because the new path felt uncertain. The resurrection isn't just a happy ending to a hard story. It is the decisive victory that rewrites every story. When Jesus walked out of that grave, he didn't just defeat death for himself, he defeated it for all of us. The empty tomb means sin doesn't get the last word. Shame doesn't get the final say. Despair doesn't write the ending. Jesus' rising is proof that light shatters the darkness, that life conquers the grave, and that no failure is beyond the reach of redemption. That's not just Peter's story. It's ours too. Hear this. Jesus sees you. He's not given up on you. He is alive, and he's looking for you to restore you because the tomb is empty. Because of that, our hearts can be filled. Our past doesn't disqualify any of us. Grace rewrites the story. He is risen. And because he is risen, our story isn't over. Amen.